Making changes to an existing website or a website that has been deployed or has been programmed or designed to a certain point, it is more expensive to go back and make changes to that. That's why we want to be careful on and designing as we go along. Deliverables, those things that that have been, say, presented to the client, things that have already been established as being completed, and then going back and make changes to those can be very expensive. So we do want to have that happen, okay? And also keep in mind that changing one one item about a website could be also require going back and revamping the whole website. For instance, if we did quadrant. Okay, moving on. Design with goals and principles in mind. Your goals would mean that we would go in and talk with your client, analyze your business and your customer needs. You would want to reference the policies, value statements of the company. Exactly, was their mission to provide a certain type of service, quality customer service? Anyway, we'd want to identify, and when we're designing, keep those policies in mind. Also, design. This would involve applying the research that is in human-computer interaction as well as graphic design. And yes, human-computer interaction is a different field than graphic design. Okay, graphic design having to do with, say, the design of fonts and also how the size of fonts and how that relates to appearance on the page. The human-computer interaction would be those types of things that have to do with users being accustomed to using navigational rows and of buttons and those type of things. Okay, measurable design goals. Business usability and customer experience goals come into play. Examples of design goals are faster task completion, faster completion of more tasks, greater ease of learning, commission of fewer errors, and all of these fall in under measurable design goals. Continuing on those goals, we want less abandonment of fewer of shopping carts. In other words, we do not want them leaving the shopping cart without completing that sale. Greater pleasure or satisfaction for the customer. It should be fun to visit the site. If it is a fun or enjoyable experience, they're going to return to your site whenever they are needing to purchase something or find out information. We want increased visitor to customer conversion rate. Those people who visit the site, maybe it is that we call them visitors. We want them to become customers. And then we also want increased customer visits. We don't want those customers coming back. And basically, another bottom line here is that all of those things, if that customer is coming back, is going to result in increased revenue. Moving on, testing and measuring. Okay, we're going to have task completion time. All right, and maybe we want to recruit a customer to come in, much like we did with our website observations. And when performing the task, okay, the design team's members want to observe that customer completing that task, okay, and determine if what were the problems, was there commonality among the problems, were there navigation errors, were there problems with the search feature, that the search feature wasn't being used correctly, or problems with the information that was returned from that search feature. Are there problems occurring in the same places? Okay. After we have determined there might be a problem with something might be mislabeled or confusing, then we want to go back and make design changes, and then we want to retest. The book suggests that when we identify a problem, that we have at least 2 different prototypes available to test. Also, the book mentions that are there any distractions that hinder the customer from completing their task? Or are they asked to complete some type of form that hinders them from, completing that task? And as we said, we want to look, when we're observing, we want to see the errors that are being made, and keeping in mind that those errors could result in the customer becoming confused and just not returning to the site, or identifying the site as being, a site that was difficult to use. Okay. Also, can your customers easily correct errors? An example of that would be completing a form, and while completing their forms through a process of, say, ordering something or providing some information, they have to return to a previous screen. Maybe they go and fill out the shipping address information, but then they suddenly realize that on the information provided that they've made a mistake in a previous screen. Okay, will they be able to go back to that previous screen without losing their information? Okay. Adhering to design principles. Be consistent throughout. Keep your navigation bars on the same place on every page. Terminology is always should be the same. An example of that is that, and you might see this on, for instance, large library sites where you have a search, a box is labeled search on one page, and it may be, find is used in another. So keep those, keep this and keep it consistent. Offer informative feedback and tell the user what is going on if they are in the process of making a selection, or if they have completed, say, stage 1 of a task. Identify some way on the screen, if possible, that what stage they are at. Another example of that is providing a preloader. For instance, if something is downloading, okay, for instance, we see that a lot with PDF files. Inform the user that something is happening, or what is going on whenever that page is downloading. Another was informing that information they are sending, the customer is sending, is being sent over a secure connection. All right. Another principle here is rely on recognition over recall, and that can involve icons, actions, and options and directions. And remember that there are going to be devices, when we're talking about here, devices that cue the customer of what they have done. An example of that would be, for instance, we click on a link just in hypertext, and that hypertext link appears a different color after we have clicked on that. That would be an example of the cues. Icons, such as an icon for printing to identify a print process. Maybe you need to, if they want to be able to print, then we put up a icon of a printer. All of these types of things that represent a task that the user is used to using, or the customer is used to using, can make things more enjoyable because they can identify, for instance, the signal that or the indication we talked about with the link, a page having been looked at appearing in a different color. Help customers avoid and recover from error. And just as I was talking about a while ago, correcting an error on a form, and the customer decides, identifies that they have created or have done an error, does going back to a previous page mean that they have to start all over in this completing this form process. An example of that, again, is updating a shopping cart at a final checkout. When the customer goes back and edits that quantity, say they have 2 in their shopping cart and they only wanted 1, when they go back to change that, do they lose their information that they completed prior to this? An example of this this is a screenshot of a final, I think this is the final step on purchasing a product. And you can see, for instance, up there under quantity, and actually what happened was this was the final, as I said, the final step. Going back to edit the quantity, and maybe you wanted the user wanted to update that quantity, or they wanted to change that product, then they could click on the edit button, and the edit button took them back to a screen where they could change the quantity that they had, if that was incorrect, or they could update it, and still it held, whenever they completed that short screen, it took them back to this screen, and then they were and it held on to their information. Okay. All right. Also, adhering to design principles, remember to give customer control and freedom. Provide multiple ways to navigate. And I think it was with some of the groups on one of the lessons I sent you out to Ticketmaster, and with Ticketmaster you were able to navigate and get to where you wanted to go by using the side panel, you know, the horizontal row of buttons that was under the home tab, or you could use the navigation row buttons at the top. All right. Also help frequent customers use accelerators, and this could be if the customer was a member, or if they had their information stored, then you could have them sign in and log in, and they basically that would get them through. That would automatically, they wouldn't have to re-enter their card numbers or information. That could speed things up. If they knew if there are ways to get to a product, provide ways to get to that product without having to go through several screens to get to that. Okay, strive for aesthetic and minimalist design. Okay, this was a few years ago, back in when the web was starting out, kind of, I guess we could say, there was a tendency to just completely load the screen up with all sorts of text and all sorts of options and icons and pictures and all that, and basically that just become a distraction. So anyway, we try a minimalist design approach. If it doesn't serve a purpose, then you know, consider taking that information or that icon, image, whatever, off of the screen. Strive for a clean and understandable look. Take out, as we just said, irrelevant information that distracts your customers. Okay, here we're going to look at you can look at the design, the different parts of design, and we want to look at the design, which is the solid line, and the usability evaluation, which is the dotted or the dashed line. Okay, with the usability evaluation, we talk about information architecture, and we'll give a definition on that. But how is our information on our website arranged? Also, usability involved the navigation design, and again, that had to be with how our users would navigate the website. Those were considered basically under that usability evaluation. The website design involves both the information architecture and navigation design, but it also involves the graphic design, which again goes back to talking about colors and images and that type of stuff. All right, information architecture, identifying, structuring, and presenting groups of related content in a logical and coherent manner. And just being able to group pieces of information when we have this complete website is a task itself. We don't want to just randomly put information without organizing it on the website. Navigational designs, this refers to methods that customers can use to find their way around this information structure, and that could be, like we talked about, the navigational buttons, horizontal buttons that we see up at towards the top of the screen, or the list of links that they could choose that would be laid out in a vertical row. Graphic design refers to the development of a visual communication of information using elements such as colors, images, typography, and layout. And that, for instance, we have become really accustomed to, say, a three panel type of layout. In other words, our screens are laid out so that there is a left side type of panel that provides types of information. In the center is the main focus, and then on the right is another panel. And we have gotten used to that, and I guess we could say that the graphic design, being able to use those three panels and visually balance things out between those three would be an example of graphic design coming into play. And just as it says there, graphic design is usually carried out after information architecture development and the navigational design. Okay? A point there that they make from the book is that yes, you can have really rich graphic designs, and you can have all sorts of images. You can have fonts that are out of the ordinary, but all of those, no matter how it looks, if the information isn't organized through your information architecture, then it can't make up for that. Okay, even though that might be a pretty site, if the information, getting to the information is difficult, your customers are not going to appreciate that, nor is your site going to be designed well. The same thing for navigational design. It can't make up for poor information.